Welcome to Raise Nation Radio, the podcast for nonprofit movers, shakers, and change makers. We are here to fuel your passion with a daily dose of fundraising inspiration while keeping the conversations and connections from the annual Raise Conference alive all year long. Tune in for fresh perspectives, bold strategies, and the hottest trends lighting up the nonprofit world. Whether you're just starting out or a seasoned pro, buckle up. Each episode is packed with lively discussions, expert insights, and creative solutions to help you make an even bigger impact. Now get ready for another exciting episode. Please welcome your host from One Cause, Dawn Lego.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Raise Nation Radio. I'm thrilled you're tuning in today. Over the last 4 years, we've journeyed together through every corner of the nonprofit world on this channel, from inspiring stories to exclusive behind-the-scenes insight, and it's all thanks to you. So if you're new to this community, well, go ahead and dive into our 174 episodes and discover what makes this show so special. And if you've been with us before, thank you for being a fan, friend, and for your support. It's what makes this community shine. The Raise Nation family stands apart with heart, humor, and soul. So settle in, get comfy, and let's dive into another uplifting episode with the one and only Kel Haney. Kel, welcome to Raise Nation Radio. I'm so glad you're with us today.
Thank you so much, Dawn. I'm so excited to be with you. Really appreciate it.
So, Kel, I know you as Kel. The nonprofit space knows you as Kel.
Yes.
Is that short for something, or is it just Kel?
That's like so curious. I love a good curious question as we're getting to know each other, Dawn. I think that's awesome. Yeah, actually, my full name is Kelly. My legal name is Kelly. At this point, basically, my mom calls me Kelly, and that's it. I even in my wedding vows said Kel, and I'm a little sad to admit this, but I was a theater director for 20 years. And when I was in college, I just thought Kelly Haney didn't sound very serious for a theater director. Yeah, obviously my parents did too.
Okay.
So I wrote on my senior thesis, Kel, and one of my best friends at the time called me Kel. So I started going by Kel Haney, and I kind of liked that it wasn't, my gender wasn't like definitive by the name. And so it just kind of, it stuck. So obviously, and we can talk about it, but my directing career intersected with my fundraising career. So Kel is my name. And I mean, to the point that I go into doctor's offices and I'm like, oh, actually call me Kel. So I completely go by Kel.
I know a number of Kellys, and I call them Kel too. So it's not a far stretch at all, but that's an interesting story, kind of a sad story, you know.
Yeah, it is. And it's just like the early aughts and how I was feeling as I was, entering a really male dominated industry and what I thought I needed to do.
I didn't realize that. That's a male dominated industry, huh?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I mean, luckily last year, a colleague of mine won the Tony, who is female identifying and in her 30s, which is really cool to see that happen. But yeah, it's still now, it's very much a male dominated industry.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Oh, well, thanks for explaining that.
Yeah,
well, while you're introducing your name, why don't you just introduce the one and only Kel Haney? I know you. We've had some inspiring conversations that I want to dive into, but say hello to Raise Nation and introduce yourself. Share whatever you'd like.
Hi, Raise Nation. So I'm Kel Haney. I'm the founder and president of Kel Haney Consulting. I'm a fundraising, not just consultant, but coach, trainer, and speaker. And what I do very specifically is I work with not-for-profits to build and maintain their mid-level donor base, predominantly through, drum roll, 5-minute phone calls.
Oh, going to get into
5-minute phone calls in 2025. I realize how that sounds. And what this really comes down to is my tag phrase is taking the ick out of the ask, and the idea that I want to shift these conversations.
Did you say ick?
The ick. Yep. Taking the ick.
How do you spell ick?
I-C-K.
Got it. Okay. Taking the ick.
Taking the ick. You know, that feeling, and like it came out of like talking, I don't know, Sex in the City or something, talking about dating, like that idea when you're with someone and suddenly you just feel
get the
icky.
ick.
Yeah. And so we all feel the ick about ourselves sometimes, people who are fundraisers. So if we're feeling the ick, then the person that we're talking to is going to feel that as well.
So ick's contagious.
Ick is totally contagious, and it's something that is like personal to each of us. So we just have to identify the ick and figure out what we're going to do to shift that for ourselves. So, so I work predominantly with 5-minute phone calls. And my idea is to shift these moments from transactional encounters to relationship building opportunities. And the idea is that we want to very much focus on the forest that is a long-term relationship with these donors, as opposed to the tree, which is what happens on this particular call. And
Got it.
I want everyone, the person making the call, the person receiving the call, to feel better about themselves and to have a good conversation and have a better day when they hang up the phone. So the idea being that this is also a way to promote micro conversations and micro relationships and micro just moments of connection, which I just think we're so starved for as technology is taking over our lives and letting us work from anywhere, and just having those moments when we can genuinely connect with someone over something that we're both passionate about. So yeah, I really like the idea of connecting humans to humans.
And you sound very passionate about this. We're going to get into it. I liked a couple things you said. Technology is taking over, but it doesn't need to.
No.
I think technology is great. We
Same.
need it.
Yeah.
Makes life easier. It helps us work smarter, but we shouldn't let it take over. We should let it just do those things for us, right? Working smarter, not harder, efficiencies, right? So technology is good, just using it the right way. I just wanted to point that out, but I
I love it, obviously.
Yes, I know. But I do want to, I've been dying to jump on the call with you because phone calls, Cal.
I know.
So I was thinking about chatting today and I'm like, wait a minute. Would that resonate with me? And I'm like, well, you know what? Maybe. I'm not sure. I'm still fighting you a little bit, but I'm like, okay. So I think about mail. Forget it. 95% of my mail is junk mail, right? It goes right into the recycling bin. So that's hard to get my attention. Email, no way. Like if I don't know you and it starts with like a question or I'm like, delete. I get far too much email. So, okay. Social media, so crowded. You can't get my attention there. So I'm like, all right, maybe Cal's right. Maybe I would pay it. So I'm intrigued. I'm not convinced, but I'm intrigued. So we are talking mid-level donors where this is optimized.
Yes.
Oh, convince me and convince Raise Nation.
Okay. Well, so one thing I would say is that we all have to remember that we're each a focus group of one. So if you have one bad experience with a phone call, or we've all had countless bad experiences. I mean, I've seen surveys that say something like 97% of community members prefer to not get phone calls. And I agree with that. Here's why, because those phone calls are done poorly. So I've started to use this analogy of when I was a kid, I hated Brussels sprouts. And I hated Brussels sprouts because my dad would take them out of the freezer, the frozen bag of Brussels sprouts, put them in, I don't know if you remember those little Pyrex dishes that we all had with water, and put it in the microwave, and then hand me this like soggy, mushy, tasteless.
And you love Brussels sprouts today though.
I do, because my husband and I.
Same story. We're kindred spirit.
I love it. Well, I'm sure you're like me.
All vegetables were highly processed when I was growing up, because that's when I grew up. Not going to give away my age. Today, I love asparagus. And, the only one I stay away from is peas, but I'm right there with you.
Okay. Yeah. And so now you're probably like me and my husband. We go to the farmer's market. We get the Brussels sprouts ourselves, start them, roast them. And even before we roast them, we have them on the stovetop, and just like we've got great garlic in there. We've got truffle salt. We've got really good olive oil.
I'm writing this down. Okay.
Bacon at our house. Yeah, I can
send me the
recipe, Brussels sprouts recipe. And I love them because you know what? They're prepared well. They're done well. So the idea being that if you've got someone calling you who is a telemarketer at best, totally transactional, like not against those individuals, but that industry is built on quantity over quality and isn't about relationship building. So if you've got someone calling you who isn't connected to the organization that you're connected to, isn't actually passionate about it, isn't actually educated on it, that's at best. At worst, it's a scammer or even an automated call. And you've got someone who calls you and picks up the phone and says, ring, ring, ring. Hi, am I speaking to Miss Lego? You're like, who calls me that? I'm like, no, I don't know you. Why are you calling me? I'm in the middle of anything. But if you called someone and they said, hi, Don, my name's Kel. I actually am the executive director of organization XYZ. You were so amazing and you did a donation of $1,000 back in December. We so appreciated that. We're getting ready to kick off our spring fundraiser. Would love to get you more involved. But first and foremost, I want to see if you saw that invitation we sent out about the in-person event we're having in the middle of April, and so you're like, you're calling me for a reason. I hear that you are working directly for this organization. You're thanking me. You're leading with gratitude. And you know me. You know what my donor history is with this organization. Okay, maybe I'll talk to you. Maybe. And here's the thing I'm going to say. Everyone has a good stretch versus a bad stretch place. So sometimes, and that's coming out of
stretch versus everyone has a good stretch and a bad. Okay. Can you explain that a little more? Yeah.
So basically, I'm really into yoga. So it's coming out of my yoga practice of like, you breathe in if it feels icky or it feels sticky or uncomfortable.
Running.
You breathe. No, just doing yoga. Like you're like, or you could be running, whatever. But if you're like, if your body.
No, I meant run. If it feels icky, you're running out the door. Yes. That's what I meant. Yeah.
Yes. Like in theory, but what yoga teaches you is instead to be curious and to breathe into the discomfort. So not to injure yourself. It's all about finding that's a bad stretch, but a good stretch is like, this feels different than yesterday, or, oh, I feel tight in a way I didn't. Let me just focus on my breath. Let me focus on why this feels different. And so like the idea that like a stretch is good. So I want to find on the phone a good stretch. And for you, Dawn, just keeping you on the phone might be the good stretch for you. That might be, you are not going to consider another donation while you're on that call. You're not going to consider, coming to the next event right now. Maybe you'll be more likely to open your emails. That's what I'd love. I'd love for you to be more likely to look at social media, to, get involved in the future and to hang up the phone. And maybe you're with your loved ones at dinner and you're going to say, I actually got a call from that organization and actually had a lovely conversation. Here's what we hear all the time. I never pick up, quote unquote, these calls. That's what we hear all the time is like, I never do this. And it's like, well, of course you don't.
This is different. So this stands out. This is different. Yeah,
exactly. So this
is
done well.
Do you do an upfront contract in your, you said that I'm, Dawn Lego, I'm with so-and-so organization. I saw that you donated $1,000 last December. In that little intro, do you do an upfront contract? I'd like just 2 minutes of your time to talk to you about an event. Like, do you give them an upfront? No, you're saying
I don't give them an upfront. I feel like people tell us part of what you want to do. And again, I've spent 20 years doing this. So basically I've probably made over 20,000, probably closer to 40,000 of these phone calls myself. And I've helped organizations raise.
Oh, wow.
It's kind of crazy. In my marketing material, I said 20 because 40 just feels totally egregious. But probably more like
you
20.
Didn't do that, Kel.
Yeah, no, but I did.
But you did. Okay.
I was a theater director and I was making calls for the theater I wanted to run someday. Over the phone is how I got into this.
Got it.
But what I would really say is that it really is about, I've reverse engineered why I was good at this to be able to train other people to have similar successes. And the big idea is that you want to host the call. So you want to feel like you're hosting as opposed to like it's not a customer service moment. It is a moment to host as the ambassador of this organization. So to me, a phrase like, I just want 2 minutes of your time feels like salesy or customer service. Sure. Mm-hmm. I also, and this gets like a little juicy. And if anybody wants, I've got 8 phrases not to use in fundraising that I recommend on my website. So you can download that freebie.
We'll put those in the show notes.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
And the one that I actually recommend, and this is I'm going to be really specific. This is specifically designed for these 5-minute phone calls. I'm not talking about sitting across from that major gifts donor that you have been cultivating for years. This is very specifically targeted to mid-level on these phone calls. But I actually recommend on never saying, do you have any questions? Because it feels salesy. It feels customer servicey.
So we're taking the sales out of the sale.
Yeah. Okay. And we're going to instead just have relationships. We're going to really do what we can to bring as much of
shift your mindset a little on how you go into this call. You're not going into this call saying, I'm exiting this call with another $1,000 donation.
No.
Got it.
No. You've got a curiosity and you've got like an overall passion for the org and an excitement that, I don't know, maybe Dawn is going to agree to do another $1,000 when we're on this call. That would be amazing. If not, no worries. I know that I'm going to do everything I can for Dawn to have learned more about the organization, have a more positive outlook on the organization, for us as individuals to be more connected than we were before we entered this call. That's the real focus. And I will say the money always follows. Like, people feel the difference of when you're really focused on the long-term relationship building as opposed to, let me get the quick $1,000 on this call. Like, that is so icky to everybody. It doesn't feel good.
Oh, I have so many questions. Where do I want to start? I think the first is an easy question. Can anyone be trained, or are you really identifying certain people in your organization that have the DISC profile or the personality or the resilience to be able to handle this? Or you really, with your all your tips and tricks, can train anybody? What do you say to that?
Anyone who wants to really learn how to do this can learn how to do this. That being said, some people have more of a natural affinity for it than others. I would say, obviously, I mean, if you're the leader of an organization, we all know, like, leadership needs to fundraise. That needs to be part of what they do. And for them to be ambassadors of the organization, like, that's necessary. So if you're in a leadership position, you need to actually know how to fundraise. And it's crucial. It's crucial. And there's ways to figure out how to make that very comfortable. And you and I both have, like, amazing colleagues who specifically coach major gifts, relationships, but anybody can do it. I would say, like, a great way to start is actually having a thankathon, actually having a moment when everybody at the organization is the one making thank yous.
Calling and thanking.
And that's something that I'm continuing to, like, work with clients towards doing, is to be like, that does not need to fall specifically under development. I have one client and
volunteers.
They actually had, like, the C-suite folks were making, this is a larger organization. I would say, like, probably $40 million organization. And they saw the success that we were having making outbound asks for the first time. So they decided in January that they were going to do 2 weeks, and that everyone in the C-suite was going to go ahead and
get on the phone.
Calls. Yeah. And they're going to, it looks like they're going to expand that next year.
Wow.
It'll be more. And I think the 3-year plan is that everyone in the org will be in charge of making some thank you calls in January and February in the next couple of years.
You're speaking to my colleague, Sarah Sebastian.
Okay. Yeah.
She leads so many things here at One Cause, but one of them is some of our research projects. Mm-hmm. And when she speaks about the outcomes of our research, she really underscores what you're saying, right? Just call and thank, and you recognize, and it's a good, nurturing, transformative, more than transactional. And I hear her say that in every webinar podcast when she's speaking about the outcomes of research. So this is evidence-based as well. And your, success story about expanding over, there's another success story. But let's talk about a hard question, Gail.
Love it.
So resources, right? Nonprofits are seriously lacking resources. We have Raise Nation listening right now.
Yes.
I'm like, okay, I'm bought in. I'm bought in now too. So just to let you know, you won me over. But if they're not, they need immediate funds. And so to justify putting resources into something that's probably sustainable, arguably sustainable, but yet not immediate, how do you help convince them to not fall into that trap of putting that off to the side? And where do they get the resources to just do a 2-week thankathon? I mean, you're talking about a larger organization where there is a C-suite, where, they can expand. What about those organizations that can't? How do they justify setting aside the time and the resources? And why should they prioritize this?
Sure. Well, I think specifically in terms of the thankathons, and I mean, there is data to show that when someone gets a thank you and gets a thank you X amount of time, I don't remember if it is like 2 or 3 months after they got a thank you, they're more likely to retain. So, I mean, that side of it is not immediate return on investment, but it's relatively immediate compared to other investments we can be making. The other thing I'll show, and again, haven't been doing this long enough that I've got anything other than qualitative data, but it helps organizations also retain their people who are working with them, retain the staff, because you have to be in touch with your own why, and you're sharing your why on the phone, and you're getting other people's why, your community, your donor base's why when you're on the phone. So there is something that's actually about building that connective tissue in your community in a larger sense. I will say the particular org I was speaking about, they were making active asks for the first time. And I think we did something like XX, what they had brought in the year before, because they were actually asking. So it might be that your active outbound making these asks over the phone is what then is able to in some way pay for or justify, even if it's not a literal pay for, that time and investment. And part of it is why I specifically focus on 5 minutes, that we're trying to have these calls within 5 minutes, is because you can get 12 of those done in an hour. So this isn't about the whole like team shutting down their work, but this is about if you're going to do a thankathon and you're going to say, okay, we've got a January challenge. Each person at your org has X many people in their portfolio, and that's who they're calling. And if they don't pick up, you do leave a voicemail. And basically
you recommend leaving the voicemail.
I absolutely do. Yeah. I mean, because you're specifically talking to people who are already connected to your org. The other amazing thing I would say right now is that our cell phones, which is so wild, show these transcriptions in this last year. And like to me, speaking of technology and how are we using technology as a tool for us, I remember reading Cal Newport's Digital Minimalism back in like 2016 or something. It is probably so dated now, but his whole idea was like, how do we make sure we're using technology to work for us as a tool for us, as opposed to us as a tool for technology? But I love the idea that the transcription shows up immediately.
Mine reads my transcription. I stumbled on a setting that it actually will read the transcription. So if I'm driving or, and it's kind of funny if I don't have my volume down and, I'm in the middle of a meeting or something, but I actually like it.
Yeah.
I think it annoys other people, but I like it because I feel like I can get something done, while I'm doing something else. I'm like, oh, no, delete that. Oh, no, save that, so I don't have to do anything. It's just being played for me.
Yeah. And I'll say back to your return on investment question. I mean, in terms of actually making these asks, I know like my philosophy is really about relationship building over what happens in the immediate. That being said, I have some really specific tactics and tools and resources, like a toolbox that I help my clients build. So if that person's on the other end, that community member calling you, if it isn't within their good stretch to make an ask in that moment, we're going to do what we can to see if they're game. And part of that is being really specific, but I always say it's about get it done dopamine. We want to ignite that in people, not just like warm and fuzzy oxytocin. So if I call you and say, Dawn, I've got another client that for the first time is having a spring campaign. They haven't done this in years and years. They're a theater and they only produce in the summer. But the artistic director was like, I miss the old days when we had a spring campaign and we were able to go into the summer with this additional income. That felt so great. So we started this idea. We have a match and it was pretty amazing. Last March, I think they raised something like $15,000 over the phone. This year it was 30, or I guess closer to 40. I guess it's going to be 40. Is probably where we'll end today. Similar for February, and it was because we were specifically talking about this match. Yeah. So when the fundraisers
match is good.
Matches are magic. I like to say
matches are. Oh, you have a lot of good one-liners. I've been doing it for a while, like figuring out what sticks with people. That's my big thought. Is like I want your listeners to be able to take away some things that are immediately actionable that they can use. But it's pretty amazing to see if you are specific with someone. And if I say to you, Dawn, you were so great, you did $1,000 back in December, and we right now I have a challenge grant. We're trying to raise $30,000 for March. Today, the day that we're recording this is the last day of March. We're still like $2.5K, $2,500 away from our $30,000. So I'm just going to shoot for the moon and see if you would do another $1,000 with me today and be part of the campaign we're wrapping today. So I gave you some really specific given circumstances of why this is like the specific amount I'm asking for. I say always ask for a specific numerical amount and let people know like the larger given circumstances of not just what are you raising money for, but how much are you trying to raise and by when. I frequently come into not-for-profits. They don't even have internal goals set, let alone are they sharing that with their community. So that makes a real difference of contextualizing why this donation is particularly impactful right now. And why I'm calling today.
Yeah, right. You got it.
So you were kind enough to share so many resources and you were so generous. We're going to put them all in the show notes, talk about actionable. But let me ask you this. How does an organization fold in this into their broader communication cadence?
That's a great question. So part of it is that what I would recommend is that you're doing one of two, maybe both of these things, is that you've got some folks who work potentially in your development department, and that might be your development department of one, but who is specifically segmenting out your mid-level donors. And so that can mean there's an algorithm you can use. I think what's most simple is for most organizations, that's a 4-digit gift. So who are those folks that are not to the place where they're giving, where they're being stewarded as a major gifts prospect and have that long-term portfolio, that in-person meetup, all of those things, but they need something more specific than the segmented, targeted emails. Okay. They need something else. So you want to figure out who are those people within your org. Go ahead and like make that as a portfolio for a particular individual, and then come up with, given how much those people gave that segment last year, come up with a goal that feels reasonable for this year and for a specific amount of time. And so you just basically want to really set that person up with like a really specific strategic plan and accountability towards that success, because you want to always make sure that you're blocking out time to make these calls. And some people, they are like, I like to do them on Fridays when I'm working from home. Amazing. Or I like to do them Wednesdays after everybody's left because I like to be in the office, but I like to pace. Like everybody's got their own, you figure out how that works.
You do you.
You do you and figure out when's the best time to do it. But to the cadence question specifically, I recommend having at least 2 active fundraising moments a year. Obviously, Giving Tuesday and end of calendar year, that fits right into what people's natural personal financial cadence are. And so then when's your other? Is it your end of fiscal? People will tell me over and over again, nobody cares about our end of fiscal year. That's because you haven't gotten them to care. You haven't like crafted an event to make them care. They actually can care. You can actually set that up that there is an
Well, if they care about Giving Tuesday and end of year and
Exactly.
Thanksgiving, they can care about something else.
Yeah. And matches are magic. So I say craft a match around that. So part of that, and you just want to make sure that whomever is making these calls for your organization, I talk specifically about doing that internally. We could do a whole other session about it, but you can also set up what I call an outbound fundraising campaign, which is when you've got specific individuals that are hired on a very part-time basis and they make these calls. But so what I set that up is those folks are actually hired by the organization, not Kalhane Consulting. So this isn't traditional telemarketing, telefundraising. I will help train those folks, keep them embedded in your organization. And there's ways, I do it 2 different ways, either that like I have colleagues that manage the room to take the admin work off of the organization, or the admin work is done internally. But these folks that are hired as very part-time employees, they're already hopefully passionate about your organization. So I actually work predominantly with artists because artists are empathetic. They like to talk. They're curious about others. They're passionate. And so then I go ahead and I match them with organizations that they're already passionate about. So for a long time, I worked with an organization that eradicated direct to consumer medical debt. And one of the people who worked there was an actor who actually had had cancer in her 20s. And she hadn't actually worked with this organization, but she had had individual patrons who helped her with her medical bills. So she was an actor who was really great at this, but she had her own personal why of why this particular organization meant so much. There was someone else there who was a playwright who unfortunately had lost her brother too soon, who again saw what medical debt can do to people. So I try to really specifically match people and attract them specifically to orgs that like they're already passionate about that work.
All right, Cal.
Yeah.
We didn't plan this, but we're coming to the end of our time together for at least this episode. We can continue the conversation outside of Raise Nation, but you did say that it only takes 5 minutes and we have about 5 minutes left.
Okay.
So
let's play.
Can you pitch me.
I love it.
Let's do it.
Tell me an org that you're actually, or give me an idea of like an org that you actually might be.
Oh, this is easy. So I think Raise Nation knows that my side hustle, I do run a small nonprofit with my daughter.
Cool. Okay, perfect.
She's a senior at Boston College.
Okay.
But she started her nonprofit when she was 14. It's evolved a little bit. Today it's called You Me Neurodiversity. And based on the name, I think you can tell its mission is to just have acceptance and understanding of the neurodiverse community. So is that enough? You need a little bit more? It's a very small grassroots organization. She writes a lot of books. She's doing an assembly this week to about a few hundreds of children, elementary, trying to get them to understand why my friend's different, but why I need to be kind anyway.
I love it. Okay, I think that's great. So do you want to just pretend do we just want to play a scenario where I'll still use your name, Dawn, but that let's say you are a donor to You, Me, and Neurodiversity. Let's say that you're a donor there. And
Great.
okay, let's just start there and let's just see how it goes. I feel fine about that. Okay,
Yeah.
you ready?
Perfect. I got my phone.
I'm going to pretend I'm
Ring, 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 ring.
yeah, I'm going to pretend that I am, I don't know, let's say I'm like the development manager. Let's say I'm mid-level calling somebody who's mid-level. I'm writing
Got
myself a little notes about this. Okay. Ring, ring, ring.
Hello, Dawn Lego.
Hey, Dawn, this is Kel Haney. I'm actually the mid-level development officer for You, Me, and Neurodiversity. I don't know if you remember, but you were so great. And you did a donation to us of $1,000 back in December.
I do remember.
You
Hi,
do?
Cal. Yes,
Hi,
I do. Yeah.
Thank
That
you
was
so
during
much.
your gratitude campaign, I think, at the end of the year. I remember.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I'm so glad to hear you even remember the name of it, because we were really focused on what can we do to bring on some new donors. And that's why we specifically had that 2-to-1 matching grant for December. So
I know my $1,000 was $2,000 by the time I got done.
Well, it was actually a 2-to-1. So it was actually tripled, as wild as that
it
sounds.
was?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I realized that.
Yeah. So we had $100,000 that was from one of our board members who really wanted us to have the initiative of bringing in some new donors. So it was $100,000 that they matched, and we raised another 50,000. So you were 150. You were 2% of that, which is pretty amazing. So we did it. So we matched our goal. Yay! We made our goal for the end of December, and we're really excited because we're going to have, I don't know if you've been seeing the emails. Have you seen that we're going to actually do that in-person event coming up later this month?
Cal, I get so many
I know.
emails.
Well, that's why
I'm
I
so
call
sorry.
you.
I probably just deleted it. I'm sorry.
It's
I didn't
totally
mean to pass
okay.
over.
It's totally okay.
But
Let me
do you
just
have an event coming up?
We do, but let me just make sure I have the right email for you. Is it dawnlego@gmail.com? Is that your best email? Okay, good. Just want to make sure we have that much correct. Yeah, but we're doing a really exciting event mid-month, and we actually have a performer. His name's Gardner Comfort, and he's an actor who has Tourette's, and he's coming in to share his one-person show and do like a talk back, like a conversation, and it's all ages, and it's a relaxed performance.
Nice. When is it? When is it?
It's happening on April 14th. So if you happen to be available, like we'd love to have you. And if not, we are going to record it. So we're going to send out the recording afterwards.
Oh, nice.
But we'd love for you to be part of that. And then we're also, part of that is to kick off our spring fundraiser, because we find that like we're doing so well at the end of the year, but our end of fiscal is actually June 3rd. So we're trying to go ahead and also build the same kind of.
What does that mean? Your end of fiscal is
sure.
What does that mean?
Basically, I mean, without getting into like the boring tax lingo, but like that, the way that all of our personal taxes are done on December 31st, as a not-for-profit, our tax year, our books close on 6/30. So we're only halfway through the year when we get to December.
I see.
We're trying something a little different. We're going to do a slightly smaller campaign. We're going to try to raise $100,000 with a 1-to-1 challenge match between now and the end of June. So that means that we actually have someone who's going to do the 50,000. So we're trying to raise another 50,000. So one never knows. Like if you're in a place that you feel like you could potentially get back involved, we just started. I think we've raised 5,000 so far. So we're like 10% of our way there, but we just started. But I wanted to check in with you today because we'd love for you to come to that event. I can put that in an email, and also just see if you feel like there's a world in which you could do, I'm just going to shoot for the moon, Dawn, and see if you could do a $1,500 donation to us sometime between now and the end of June.
Well, I don't know. That feels a little bit of a stretch on my budget, but you know, it is, Autism Awareness Month this April. I was planning to have a budget because I am passionate about, you know, the neurodiverse community. So I probably could commit to 1,000.
That would be amazing.
I could do that. Sure.
Okay, amazing. Awesome.
And that'll be matched. So it'll be 2,000. Is that right?
Yeah. Okay, you got it. And I'm so excited because you're bringing us to 6,000 in terms of how much we've raised. So that's so awesome. So it looks like.
I feel good about it.
Yeah. And it looks like in our CRM, we already have a credit card for you on file. It looks like it
go
ends
ahead. You
in
could
4-3.
use that.
Okay, great. So I'll go ahead and I'll get that started, and we'll send you a little receipt over your email just so you've got that for taxes immediately. And I'll also send you the invitation, Dawn, to see if you do want to come.
Yeah, I'm free April 14th. A little hard for me to, you know, carve out time, but if you could put in the subject line like all caps or something like that, because if not, it just gets deleted.
Sure, I'll
But-
go ahead. We'll go ahead. We'll put it all in caps. I can also
Now,
make
what was
myself.
your name again?
My name's Kel.
Cal.
So
Okay.
I'm in the development department. I'm kind of
Okay.
mid-level. I have to admit, making these calls makes me feel a little nervous. I just
Oh,
started to do
why?
it.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. It's just like vulnerable and people say they don't want phone calls. So I
Yeah.
don't know. We don't know, but I'm glad that you did this. And
Yeah.
what I'm going to do, Dawn, is I'll send you not just the receipt for the taxes, but I'll send you in all caps. I'll send you the invite for the 14th.
Okay,
And
I'll try. No promises there, but
no
I'll try.
promises, but I will tell you, I'll do this. If we haven't heard from you by like that Thursday or Friday about it, I'll just go
You
ahead
gonna nudge
and
me?
I'll nudge you. I'll leave you another
Okay.
call. You don't have to pick up, but I'll leave your voicemail or something just so you know what's happening. Cause I think you'll really appreciate, Gardner's a phenomenal performer, and to watch him engage with the kids. His piece is actually about him going to the National Tourette's Conference for the first time as
Oh.
a man in his face, and like what that
Oh.
meant, that he felt like he was with other folks for the first time who are also neurodivergent, but at the same time it was mostly kids. So it was just a different experience.
Oh,
but
cool.
kids really open up to him, and to like, it's kind of awesome to be in a space where like everybody ticking is okay. It's pretty rad.
I'm
So-
really glad that you didn't hire just like, a named celebrity that is not of the neurodiverse community. This
Yeah.
feels much more meaningful and intentional. I hope I can,
yeah, I hope you
time
can
is
too,
my
but-
enemy sometimes, but
it's okay. We'll send you like, we're going to do a sizzle reel, like a short video afterwards. So even if you can't be there, we'll send that. But this is so great. Thank you so much again
thank you
for the
Yeah.
donation and the time. And we'll keep you on the mailing list. And like, I will check in with you about the event on the 14th. And then, we'll check in with you a little bit later in the year as we gear up for Giving Tuesday and year end again. So
That fun
thanks, Dawn.
time of year.
You know
Yeah.
it. You know
Well,
it.
thanks. You saved me from having to figure out, where my support's going to go this
Thank you.
April.
Happy
So
to do
thanks
it,
so
Dawn.
much, Cal. You have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, there we go. A live example. That was awesome, Cal. Without any homework. You did it. You did it.
Yep,
Yay.
I have done that a lot. A lot of my training really is, and you can take the theater out of the gal, but not the gal out of theater. A lot of my training really is rehearsing with each other and practicing, and what are the different scenarios. So I'm actually playing with now a little like Mad Libs idea of like the 2 moments of the call that are the most challenging. Cause I say scripts are for actors, not for fundraisers, but there are a couple of moments where the call can get a little challenging that I'm like, okay, I'm going to offer you some
It's
Mad
this,
Libs.
do that. Yeah.
Well,
Got
even more, it's like how much money here, like their name there,
Got it.
like anyway, but
Well, you are giving me a new perspective. I have to
Oh,
admit,
good.
I came into this podcast thinking, Cal, really phone calls? But you convinced me. Hopefully you convinced Raise Nation.
yeah, sure.
If it's okay with you, we'll drop your contact information
I
and
love it.
all of the resources that you so generously shared with
sure.
our audience so that they could be actionable, and they can also contact you if they need additional help.
I love it. Yeah. I'm, LinkedIn is my networking happy place. So like leave me a message on LinkedIn. I would love to hear if you do pick up the phone, how it's going.
Yes.
You can also hop
I
on
want to
my,
hear too.
yeah, I know, right? I'll share it with you. You can also hop on my website, calhaney.com. There's some freebies on there, like the one we already mentioned. And there's a place if you want just 30 minutes to chat with me. I would love to take 30 minutes and just hear
You're so
how
generous.
it's going. Yeah.
Yeah,
And just,
so good.
It's a new way to do things, a new old way
Okay.
to do things.
A new old way to do things, right?
Yeah.
Bringing back those old classics. Well, that's a
Yeah.
wrap for today's show. Big thank you to Kel, the one and only Kel Haney. If she's not on your contact resource list, she needs to be. So save this episode. And a big thanks to all of you for tuning in. You're truly the heartbeat of this community. Remember, your voices and experience make Raise Nation uniquely inspiring. So please don't be a stranger. I want to hear from you. Join us on the show. Share your story, and let's continue to build this incredible community together. But until next time, you stay fearless and keep raising the nation.
Fearless Fundraisers, that's a wrap for today. A heartfelt thank you to our guests for sharing their stories, insights, and expertise. And to you, our fantastic audience, for everything you do to build brighter tomorrows in our communities. We hope today's content inspires you to amplify your mission and grow your impact. Don't forget to join us for new episodes every Thursday, wherever you listen to your podcasts, or catch us on YouTube and on demand at onecause.com. And before we go, we'd love your help in growing this podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, follow, and subscribe to Raise Nation Radio. Share it with a friend, And please leave us a review so we can continue delivering content that inspires and empowers. Raise Nation Radio is produced in partnership with One Cause, your go-to for digital fundraising solutions that connect nonprofits with their donors and drive results. Visit onecause.com or scan the QR code to schedule a one-to-one with their fundraising experts and explore the latest tools and innovations to help you reach more and raise more. Plus, be sure to check out their extensive catalog of free resources to support your mission. All the links are in the show notes. Raise Nation Radio is inspired by the annual Raise Conference, presented by One Cause. We'd love to see you in person at the next Raise event in September. It's a 2-day experience featuring over 35 CFRE accredited sessions, dynamic speakers, and the latest innovations from our sponsor pavilion, and priceless networking opportunities. And while you're there, don't miss the Fearless Fundraiser Party. It's where memories are made and lifelong friendships are formed. Secure your spot today at onecause.com/raise. The link is also in the show notes. Until next time, thank you for tuning in. And as always, stay fearless